The year was 2243. Humanity had spread its wings across the cosmos, colonizing distant planets and establishing thriving communities. However, contact with extraterrestrial species had proven to be a double-edged sword. While some races arrived in peace, others, like the aggressive reptilian race known as the Cathar, sought to dominate any life form they encountered. On the serene planet of Qingzhou, nestled within towering mountains and shrouded in mist, the Shaolin monastery stood as a bastion of tranquility and spirituality. Here, the venerable Master Bai Long, a wise and aged monk, devoted his life to teaching his disciples the principles of harmony, self-control, and the art of living in peace. The temple, hidden from the chaos of the universe, was a sanctuary for those seeking enlightenment. One fateful morning, as Bai Long sat in quiet meditation, the stillness was abruptly shattered by a thunderous roar. A Cathar warship, battered and smoking, crashed to the ground a few kilometers away. The ground trembled, and a cloud of dust and debris rose into the air. His disciples, young and anxious, rushed to his side. "Master, what do we do?" asked Li, a young disciple, his voice quivering with fear. "The invaders have come." Bai Long smiled gently, exuding an aura of calm that enveloped his students. "The storm will pass without the need for a sword," he replied, his voice steady. With that, he rose from his seat and began walking towards the site of the crash, his robes flowing gracefully behind him. As they reached the crash site, the Cathar soldiers emerged from the wreckage, their scales glistening ominously in the sunlight. Confident and aggressive, they scanned the area, weapons drawn, ready to assert their dominance. "Prepare to take control of this planet," commanded Vokatar, the imposing Cathar commander, his eyes burning with fury. His soldiers, bred for war, obeyed without question. Bai Long and his disciples stood silently at a distance, observing the scene. The Cathar were oblivious to the presence of the monks, dismissing them as mere nuisances. "Should we fight them, Master?" asked Jin, another young disciple, his fists clenched in frustration. "They look dangerous." Bai Long shook his head. "This is not a battle we will win with force," he replied, his tone calm and composed. "War is not our path." "Then what do we do?" Li pressed, glancing nervously at the soldiers. "Watch and learn," Bai Long instructed, stepping forward to face the approaching soldiers. As Vokatar ordered his troops to advance, the soldiers unleashed a barrage of weapons, but Bai Long stood firm, an embodiment of serenity. With fluid grace, he moved, evading the blasts with effortless agility. "Stand back!" shouted Vokatar, his impatience growing. "Show these weaklings what real power is." But as his soldiers lunged forward, Bai Long responded not with aggression, but with skillful maneuvers. He sidestepped their attacks, using their momentum against them. He twisted and turned, disarming soldiers without causing harm. "Is this all they've got?" he remarked, almost playfully, as he spun around one soldier, sending him crashing into his comrade. Vokatar watched in disbelief, his anger bubbling beneath the surface. "What kind of sorcery is this?" he growled, clenching his fists. "Perhaps it's not sorcery, but simply wisdom," Bai Long replied, his eyes twinkling with humor. "The greatest weapon is the one that remains sheathed." As the fight continued, more Cathar soldiers fell victim to Bai Long's astonishing agility. They were no match for his skills, and Vokatar felt the first pangs of doubt creeping into his mind. After the initial clash, the Cathar forces retreated, bewildered and battered. Vokatar, determined to unravel the mystery behind Bai Long's strength, spent sleepless nights pondering his next move. He realized that the power wielded by the monks was not merely physical, it was rooted in something deeper. As days passed, Vokatar discreetly observed Bai Long and his disciples from the shadows. He watched as they practiced their meditative arts, as they chanted in unison, their voices resonating in the stillness of the mountains. Each day, Bai Long taught them lessons about inner strength, humility, and the importance of balance. "What makes them so powerful?" Vokatar whispered to his lieutenant, Zal-Ir, as they hid among the trees. "They are just monks." "They have something we do not," Zal-Ir replied, narrowing his reptilian eyes. "They fight with their minds, not just their bodies." Vokatar shook his head, frustration bubbling over. "This is unacceptable. We cannot let them get away with this. We must find their weakness." During his clandestine observations, Vakatar found himself drawn to the teachings of Bai Long. One night, he overheard the old monk speaking to his disciples by the light of a flickering fire. "The greatest enemy lies not outside us, but within," Bai Long explained. "Fear is our greatest adversary. It shackles us and clouds our judgment. Only by confronting our fears can we achieve true strength." "What if we are afraid of losing?" one disciple asked hesitantly. "Then we must learn to embrace loss," Bai Long replied, his gaze steady. "For in every defeat there is a lesson. Every battle won is not a victory over another, but a victory over ourselves." Vakatar listened intently, grappling with the implications of Bai Long's words. The more he observed, the more he found himself questioning his own beliefs. Days turned into weeks, and each day, Vakatar returned to the temple grounds, struggling to reconcile his warrior instincts with the wisdom he had begun to appreciate. As tensions mounted and news arrived of an impending Cathar fleet set to obliterate the planet, Vakatar felt the weight of responsibility pressing upon him. He was faced with a decision that would alter the course of history. One evening, he approached Bai Long, who was meditating at the temple's edge, the sun setting behind him. The sky was a canvas of orange and gold. "Master," Vakatar began, his voice shaky. "What should I do? My people are preparing for war, but I see a different path here." Bai Long opened his eyes slowly, the serenity in his expression unshaken. "Choose what feels right, not what is convenient," he advised, his voice soothing like a gentle breeze. "True strength lies in the ability to choose peace." Vakatar took a deep breath, torn between his duty as a commander and the newfound wisdom imparted by the old monk. Could he really go against his nature? Was there another way? "I don't know if I can change," Vakatar admitted, his heart racing. Bai Long smiled, a hint of kindness in his eyes. "Every journey begins with a single step. You must take that step, even if it scares you." As the Cathar fleet loomed closer in the darkening skies, the mood within the monastery shifted. The disciples felt the tension thickening in the air, a palpable sense of dread and urgency. Vakatar, now more a seeker of wisdom than a mere soldier, found himself caught in a maelstrom of conflicting emotions. One afternoon, he convened with Bai Long and the monks to discuss their options. "Master, they will not relent. The Cathar are relentless in their pursuit," Vakatar said, his voice heavy with concern. "They have been taught to conquer, to destroy. How can we stand against them?" Bai Long sat cross-legged on the temple floor, his hands resting peacefully in his lap. "Confrontation is not always the answer, Vakatar. What if we approach them differently? We could offer them a choice instead of conflict." "Choice?" Vakatar echoed, confusion etched across his face. "You mean to negotiate with them? They will see it as a sign of weakness." "Perhaps," Bai Long replied, "but sometimes vulnerability is the strongest position we can take. What if we offered them knowledge instead of weapons? The power of understanding can be more formidable than any blaster or sword." The disciples exchanged worried glances, the idea of negotiating with their enemies almost absurd to them. "Master, they are ruthless," Li protested. "How can we trust them?" Bai Long smiled knowingly. "Trust must begin with us. If we can show them our strength lies in peace, perhaps they will see a different path. But we must be prepared for any outcome." Vakatar felt a spark of hope igniting within him, but it was overshadowed by doubt. What if they refuse? What if they attack? "Then we will stand together, united in our beliefs," Bai Long assured him. "Our greatest weapon is our resolve." As preparations were underway for a potential confrontation, Vakatar began to form an unexpected bond with one of the Shaolin disciples, Ming, a fierce young woman known for her fiery spirit and quick wit. One evening, while practicing meditation under the stars, Ming confronted Vakatar. "You're different now, aren't you?" she observed, her eyes narrowing as she studied him. "You don't seem like the same Cathar soldier who crashed into our home." Vakatar hesitated, unsure of how to respond. "I've seen things I cannot ignore, Ming. There's a power in what Bai Long teaches. It's enlightening." "Enlightening?" she scoffed, her tone teasing but curious. "You mean to tell me that, after everything, you think we can just talk them down? You think they'll listen?" "I believe they might," he replied earnestly. "But it will take courage on both sides. I don't want to be a part of this cycle of violence anymore. Ming's expression softened. Then show us that courage. If we are going to confront the Cathar, we need to do it together. No more hiding behind our walls. If you believe in peace, then lead us. The day of reckoning arrived. Voktar, alongside Bai Long and a small delegation of monks, stood before the imposing Cathar warship that hovered ominously above the monastery. The air crackled with tension as soldiers lined up, weapons at the ready. Voktar took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his people's expectations pressing down on him. "Stay behind me, master," he whispered, a mixture of fear and determination in his voice. "No, Voktar," Bai Long replied, placing a calming hand on his shoulder. "This is your moment. Show them the strength you have found." With that, Voktar stepped forward, the flickering light of the warship illuminating his scaled skin. The Cathar soldiers watched him with narrowed eyes, waiting for a sign of weakness. "Voktar, commander of the Cathar," he proclaimed, his voice echoing through the stillness. "I stand before you today not as a warrior, but as a bridge between our worlds." From the warship emerged Cathor, a large, imposing figure whose presence commanded fear. His voice rumbled like thunder as he addressed Voktar. "You dare come here unarmed? You come to negotiate?" "I come to offer you a choice," Voktar stated, his heart racing but his voice steady. "A choice between destruction and understanding. We have the opportunity to learn from one another, rather than continue this cycle of violence." Cathor's eyes flickered with interest, but also skepticism. "What do you know of our ways? Your kind has only sought to defeat us." "Perhaps," Voktar acknowledged, "but I have learned that true power lies in unity. We have both suffered. We can choose to fight or to learn. I invite you to experience our way of life, to see that strength can be found in peace." Murmurs rippled through the Cathar ranks, and for a moment, Voktar dared to hope. But Cathor remained unmoved, his expression a mask of calculation. "Why should we trust you? Your kind has only shown us betrayal." "Because I stand here, unarmed, offering you a chance," Voktar replied, his voice unwavering. "Trust must begin somewhere. Will you take the first step?" After a tense silence, Cathor leaned forward, his sharp gaze fixed on Voktar. "Very well. I will give you a chance. But know this. If you fail, your kind will pay dearly." Bai Long stepped forward, his presence calming. "Let us demonstrate our teachings. A test of strength, not with weapons, but with spirit. If we can show you the power of peace, will you reconsider?" Cathor's interest piqued. He nodded slowly. "Very well. A demonstration it shall be. Show me your ways, monk." The Cathar commander watched as Bai Long and Voktar prepared for the display. As the two faced off, the monks and Cathar soldiers gathered around, curiosity piqued. "Let's show them how strength is not just in physical prowess," Bai Long whispered to Voktar, a knowing smile on his face. As they began, Bai Long moved gracefully, demonstrating the art of Shaolin Kung Fu. He flowed through the movements, showcasing precision, balance, and control. Voktar, inspired, joined him, their movements a dance that embodied harmony and unity. The Cathar soldiers were bewildered. "What are they doing?" one soldier whispered to his companion, eyes wide with disbelief. "This isn't a fight, it's a performance," his companion replied, captivated by the elegance before them. Cathor's expression shifted from skepticism to intrigue as he watched the demonstration unfold. "Are they trying to impress us?" he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. "What foolishness is this?" But Voktar, sensing Cathor's skepticism, turned to him during a moment of pause. "Do you see? This is our strength. We are not defined by our capacity for violence, but by our ability to create." As the demonstration continued, Voktar felt a connection growing, not only with Bai Long, but also with the Cathar soldiers watching intently. Then, as if by some unspoken cue, Bai Long transitioned into a series of defensive maneuvers. "This is how we defend ourselves, without aggression," he stated, his voice calm. "We adapt and redirect rather than retaliate." Cathor watched in silence, his mind racing with thoughts. For the first time, he began to see the monks not as threats, but as potential allies. "Perhaps there is merit in what they are showing us," Cathor mused aloud, earning nods of agreement from some of his soldiers. As the demonstration reached its climax, Bai Long and Voktar executed a final synchronized move, their forms intertwining in a spectacular display of unity. The crowd erupted in applause, and for a moment, the air was thick with anticipation. Now, Bai Long addressed the Cathar, imagine if we worked together. If we could harness this strength, our combined knowledge could change the fate of our worlds. The murmurs among the Cathar grew louder, a mixture of doubt and intrigue swirling in the air. Cathor, feeling the weight of his people's gaze, finally spoke. You have shown us something we have never considered. Perhaps there is wisdom in your words. Voktar held his breath, a mixture of hope and fear flooding through him. Then let us begin anew. Let us learn from each other. With a solemn nod, Cathor extended his hand toward Voktar. I accept your offer. Let us explore this path together. Cheers erupted from the Shaolin monks, and even the Cathar soldiers found themselves swept up in the moment, uncertainty transforming into curiosity. As the two sides began to engage in discussions, Bai Long smiled softly, knowing that the seeds of understanding had been planted. This was just the beginning of a long journey toward peace. In the months that followed, the Shaolin monks and Cathar soldiers forged an unlikely alliance. They exchanged teachings and traditions, each group learning from the other's strengths. Voktar became a liaison between the two cultures, finding joy in the friendships that blossomed. Ming and Voktar often trained together, blending their fighting styles and philosophies. You know, she said one day, wiping the sweat from her brow, I never thought I'd be training with a Cathar. You've become one of us. Voktar chuckled, the camaraderie warming his heart. And I never imagined I would find such strength in friendship. You have taught me more than any weapon ever could. Meanwhile, Cathor found himself increasingly fascinated by the Shaolin way of life. During one of their shared gatherings, he stood before the monks and soldiers alike, a rare smile on his face. I have come to realize that power is not merely in dominance, but in understanding. We are not so different after all, he announced. The atmosphere was electric with excitement. The realization that they could build a future together was dawning upon them all. Years passed, and what began as a confrontation turned into a flourishing partnership. The Shaolin monastery became a center of learning, where Cathar and humans alike sought wisdom, embracing the ideals of peace and cooperation. Bai Long, though aging, remained a steadfast figure of guidance. He watched with pride as Voktar emerged as a leader, championing the message of unity. On a beautiful day, as the sun set behind the mountains, the community gathered to celebrate their shared achievements. Laughter and joy filled the air, a stark contrast to the fear that had once enveloped them. Today, we stand together, Voktar declared, raising a cup in a toast. Let us celebrate our differences and embrace our unity. As cheers erupted, Bai Long stood quietly at the edge, a gentle smile on his face. He knew that this harmony was not a destination, but a continuous journey, a journey of courage, understanding, and laughter. Master, Li approached, her voice filled with gratitude. Thank you for guiding us. Your wisdom has changed our lives. Bai Long chuckled softly, his eyes sparkling. Remember, true strength lies within you all. Continue to nurture that light, and it will guide you no matter where the stars may lead. As the festival continued, Voktar found himself looking up at the night sky, contemplating the vastness of the universe. He felt a sense of peace wash over him, knowing that their journey was just beginning. Ming, he said, his voice filled with hope, do you think we can reach the stars together? She smiled, her eyes sparkling like the constellations above. With our hearts united, I believe we can achieve anything. And so, with laughter and dreams intertwined, the Shaolin and Cathar stood together, ready to face whatever challenges the universe might throw their way. Their story, a testament to the strength found in understanding and unity. In the years that followed, tales of the Shaolin and Cathar alliance spread across galaxies, inspiring countless beings. They became a beacon of hope, proving that even the deepest divides could be bridged with patience and compassion. Bai Long, now a legendary figure, continued to teach future generations the importance of harmony. And as new challenges arose, the legacy of the Shaolin and their unlikely allies lived on, a shining example of what could be achieved when hearts united under the stars.